So the trip we took in October, there was 16 of us that uh, booked a trip with Captain Peacock in Brazil, and so he kind of has a unique setup because he's got a what he calls a floating hotel. But I'm here to tell you that that piranha is the best fish to eat. I mean, it is incredible.
It's too much. There's
Tejas.
it's still too.
Tejas Hunt Club Podcast is the podcast for you and you and you and you. What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 32 of the Tejas Hunt Club Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon McDowell. And this week, we're going to be talking to our good buddy, Brandon Bredemeyer, the former president of the SCI West Texas chapter out in Midland. We've highlighted their event before, and we're coming back around for it this year. So we got on to talk to him about his two trips that he's been on in the past couple months. One down to Brazil to chase peacock bass on a tributary of the Amazon River, and the other, their trip to Spain to chase Ibex in the mountains. So we're going to sit down and talk to him about that. And then we're going to get into the event for 2024 that's coming up. So get that on your calendar. I'll have the dates here in a second. But before we get into that podcast, we're going to cover a couple things. First off, this podcast is dropping the week of Christmas. I hope everybody has had a great holidays. I know we've had chapter Christmas parties and business Christmas parties. So I hope everybody's enjoyed their time celebrating and hopefully going to be around your family coming up this week. But if you have to pick up any last minute gifts, if you forgot somebody, we do have a great Christmas gift guide that we posted on our YouTube channel, and we did an episode on the podcast. So if you haven't listened to that, go check that out. We got a lot of cool stuff on there. A couple things that we talked about in that podcast, we've actually picked up and plan on doing some videos here coming up. I'm not going to tell you which ones they are, but if you listen to the podcast, you'll kind of figure out with some hints, of the things that I'm talking about, hopefully getting soon. Well, they're here. Some of them, at least. If you haven't already checked out the podcast we did with Blake Moulton, you should definitely go give that one a listen. He's been posting a lot of content lately. He's been up north and down here in Texas hunting ducks. So if you're not following him, first go listen to the podcast, then go check out his page, Blake Moulton, and then also Waterfowl Assault Co. Like I said, he's got some great content. If you're into duck hunting, which apparently a lot of our listeners are, going back to farming with ducks with Lone Star Wetlands, still the top podcast going right now. Didn't know y'all like duck hunting so much, but we're gonna have to get those guys back on, do another one. So both Megan and I have been pretty busy lately, just from our day jobs, and then also filming. We went down to South Texas to DA Ranch and filmed some whitetails, which we have a little surprise video, real cool video that we're gonna be dropping here pretty soon from that trip. And let me tell you, you're gonna want to see it, and you're not gonna want to miss it. It's pretty cool. I'm just gonna say it involves two big deer, and we're gonna just leave it at that for right now. So be sure you're subscribed. Make sure you follow along because you're not gonna want to miss this video. But anyway, we were doing some work for them down there, creating some content for them, filming whitetails, some exotics and stuff. So we have a video coming out with that. We're going to produce a video for their booth for when they go to trade shows and stuff. So big shout out to Leo and Madison down there. They treat us like family every time we go down, and it's top notch place. So if you're looking to get a hunt, they have a wedding venue also. So if you're looking to get married or know somebody that is, check out DEA Ranch in Mathis, Texas. Also, they have their own beef too. So if you're looking to get some beef from a ranch that's local, you don't have to go to HEB or any other grocery store. Hit them up, DEA Ranch. And then coming off that trip, following that, I went down to Wimberley, Texas at Inspiring Oaks Ranch and did a mentored hunt with Stewards of the Wild. Matt Hughes, who we've also had on the podcast, ran this hunt and then invited me down to help guide. I got to spend some time with some pretty cool people down there and got to help some people get their first doe and get their first hog. So it was a great trip. I'll have a video coming out on YouTube with that. But I want to give a big shout out to my hunter, my new buddy Josiah. Got his first pig. I don't know if you saw, if you check out my Instagram, I got a couple pictures from that weekend, and then also a little reel I put together from going on that hunt with him. So congratulations to him once again. It was pretty cool. We got to well, you'll see it in the video, but after he shot the pig, we had to do a little track job, and we had to go in the bush with it. And she shot a sow with a bunch of little piglets around her, and those piglets were still kind of hanging around her while she went off, and we were blood trailing. When we walked up on her, she was still alive and kicking for a little bit. So we kind of had to back out there and for a little bit and just let her pass on, and then her piglets and stuff ran off. But they were pretty big. They were around like 20 to 30 pounds, so they were about time to be off mom's tit anyway. So great big sow. We took her back, cleaned her. Josiah's taking it home. He's gonna get it processed. But that was one of the fattest sows I've seen in a long time. And I mean, like, good fat that you want. Like, sure, I'm sure that's gonna make some great pork chops for Josiah and his family. So congratulations to him again. I said big shout out to Matt Hughes for putting that hunt on. He did a great job at running it. We were on time for everything. The food was phenomenal. We got to eat wild game the whole weekend. Just getting to spend time outdoors like that and getting to hunt and just look at. We got to see some cool whitetails too. A couple good sized bucks were running around, but we were just doing management on does and hogs. So that's what the hunters were going after. All in all, great weekend. I'll have a video coming out on the YouTube channel, so stay tuned for that. And then we'll also be posting stuff on my Instagram and on Tejas Hunt Club Instagram. Also, in the Facebook group, if you're listening to the podcast and on Facebook, shoot us a message, and then we'll get you approved into the Facebook group. So I recently got started a partnership with Real Avid. They make gun cleaning kits, gun parts, tools, anything that you would need to work on firearms, from pistols to ARs to bolt guns. They have this awesome master gun vise that you can use to mount your guns, to work on them, to clean them, to do a lot of different stuff. So coming up this next year, I'm going to be putting together a couple ARs just for fun. I've recently gotten some opportunity to buy some parts and wanted to build some ARs just to have some different guns, because I like shooting guns. And plus, the guys at work kind of give me a hard time since I don't have an AR to bring when we go to range days. So I'm going to have to put some together so I can have something to take instead of just using what we have at work. So I started, like I said, got a partnership with Real Avid because I was looking at building out these ARs and I didn't have the knowledge and how to do it. I met Dustin a couple years ago at POMA, which is Professional Outdoor Media Association, and he was there demonstrating their tools and the vise and thing at the conference. And I was like, hey man, and back then I knew I wanted to start building some ARs, or at least work on my guns and stuff. And I was like, hey man, when I get to a spot I want to do this, I'm gonna hit you up, because I'm gonna need your help and your guidance in how to do all this stuff, because it's new to me. So like I said, I got to the point now where I was buying some parts, and I hit him up and he was like, hey man, this is what we're going to do. If you want to help us create some content, I can, teach you some things, send you some guides and stuff to help you get started and get you going building ARs and stuff. So that's what we did. I'm gonna be creating some content, so it'll live on our YouTube channel. I'll do podcast about it, and then also it'll be on their channel as well. So if you're on Instagram, check out Real Avid. I'll have it linked down here in the description. And also, if you're looking for some tools and stuff to work on your guns, I do have a discount code, so I'll put that in the link below, and then to their website and everything, so you can check out what they have. Like I said, they have gun vices, they have punches, they have wrenches, they have AR multi tools, like pretty much anything that you need in working on any firearm. And you, like you said, even in these mounting systems, you can mount your bows in it as well. So when he told me that I could work on my guns and my bows, he sold me. So like I said, check them out. I have them linked in the description, have the website pop up here, but I'll be posting a lot of content with their stuff coming up. So stay tuned for that. With talking about content for 2024, which is hard to believe. This 2023 went by pretty fast. This is, like I said, was when we started the podcast, so we're already coming up on a whole year. So it's been a lot of fun doing this, and we're gonna keep it going for 2024. In that aspect, we're open to hearing about what y'all want to hear about in 2024. So if y'all have people that want to come on the podcast, or people you think should be on the podcast, stories you want to tell yourself, hit us up on Instagram, hit us up on mine, Tejas Hunt Club, shoot us a DM. We'd love to hear what y'all want to hear from content wise for 2024. With January starting off and hunting season kind of slowing down, what we have next is trade show season. So, like I spoke earlier, SCI West Texas chapters events coming up. Their West Texas Hunters Extravaganza. That one's going to be January 27th in Midland. So, if you're in the area, if you're not in the area, plan a trip. Just to be the first trip for the new year. Head out to Midland, come to the event. It's going to be a great time. You can walk around, see the booths, see the vendors. There's going to be a lot of outfitters there, a lot of gear. KUIU is probably going to be there. Just picked up their new guide jacket. Best hunting jacket that I've purchased so far. Not even going to lie. It's hard to say because, I mean, it's KUIU and you're like, it's an expensive jacket. If you hunt a lot and you don't want to be cold, buy it. It's the truth. But anyway, if you're not doing anything that weekend, January 27th, come hang out with us in Midland. We'll be there covering the event, and come support West Texas SCI chapter. But before that, we're going to be going up to DSC, Dallas Safari Club Convention. That's going to be January the 11th through the 14th. We're probably going to be there Saturday, maybe Friday and Sunday that weekend. But Fort Worth's going to be going on too. So we're going to go hit up the ranch rodeo, and watch that. And then probably go to DSC during the day. So if you're going to DSC, come by, say hi. We'll be there. Send us a DM. We'll meet up, have lunch or something. Now, planning way, way, way ahead. Not really, but April 26th through 28th, Total Archery Challenge, San Antonio, Texas. Put it on your calendar. Hit us up. We're going. If we want to, we can put something together for people that never been attacked. We can all shoot together, shoot courses, hang out, do that kind of stuff. So if that's something that interests any of you, shoot us a DM, send us a message, and we'll get it coordinated. But April 26th through 28th, TAC, San Antonio. Come shoot with us. That's been a whole lot of talking before we even get into the podcast. I know that was kind of long, but this is probably going to be the last podcast for 2023. So we had to put some stuff out there. I appreciate y'all listening for this long. I appreciate y'all listening for all of 2023, and I hope you stick around for 2024. But right now, we're going to get into the podcast with Brandon Bredemeyer and see about fishing in Brazil, hunting Ibex in Spain, and then, of course, the West Texas Hunters Extravaganza. Thanks for listening, guys. Have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we'll see you in 2024. But yeah, man. So just wanted to, like I said, just tell me about these two trips you've been on, and then of course, talk about SCI and the event and everything. So just give a little shout out, let our listeners know if they're out in Midland,
What
come
it's
out
all
to
about.
the event.
Yeah.
Yep, that sounds good.
Cool, man. Well, I'll do like a little intro, and then we'll get going.
All right, sounds like a plan.
What
What
hat
is that? Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
That's pretty
Brosic.
cool.
It's a
Dude,
local
I like
taxidermy
it.
here.
Yeah.
Dude,
They were the
got a
guys that had
shot
the coyotes that had the bobcat in the tree.
Oh, okay, yeah. I remember that one
Ooh,
over there.
yeah.
And then
their
they had
logo's pretty cool.
yeah, they had the desert bighorn there too, so that was pretty cool.
Nice. All right, guys. Well, welcome to another episode of the Tejas Hunt Club podcast. I'm your host, Brandon McDowell, also along with
Megan McElroy.
And we're sitting down with our buddy from West Texas, Brandon Bredemeyer, from the SCI West Texas chapter, the president of the SCI West
Former
Texas chapter.
president.
Oh.
Yeah, I had
rolled off, huh?
Yep. Yeah,
Oh,
we found another sucker that was willing to do it, so we turned it on over. Oh yeah, they just like they did with me. They kind of bait you in and everything. Like, oh, it's your turn. You're ready to do this, and then turn you loose. And so Lenny Wood is actually our new president this year as of April. So
okay,
we're
cool,
excited to have him, and
cool.
he's a good leader. So
Nice. Well, congratulations, Lenny Wood. I don't know if he listens to the podcast, but congratulations to him.
Excited to meet him.
Yeah, that'd be cool. So, what's your role now?
So right now I'm doing auction and exhibitor stuff. So that's our big push right now. We're trying to wrap all that stuff up and try to get our program put together and our auction lineup put in place, and that way we can start getting everything put online so everybody can take a look at it.
Cool.
That's
Sounds
so
good.
much work.
Sounds good. Yeah,
So much work.
Just from the stuff we've dealt with at Ranch
Mhm.
and Wildlife Committee for Houston and getting all that auction put together. It's like people show up and they just show up and have a good time, but they just don't understand the work and stuff that goes on and the coordination and like getting
Mhm.
people in the right places and stuff to get that event going.
Yeah, it's no joke. I mean, we truly start planning the day after the event. So
Yep.
Yeah.
it's a never-ending process.
For sure. Well, before we get into the event again, we're going to start off because, if you haven't been following along on our Instagram page, we've been sharing Brandon's photos because he's been on 2 pretty awesome trips. And 2 of them that I really didn't even have on my radar. But of course, he goats me into, shows me all these cool things that I can go do and just adds to the list. But Brandon, tell us a little about the 2 trips you just got back from.
So the trip we took in October, there was 16 of us that booked a trip with Captain Peacock in Brazil, and so he kind of has a unique setup because he's got a what he calls a floating hotel. So he truly built a
Literally.
yeah, he truly built a hotel on top of a barge, and I mean it's an unbelievable setup. And anyway, the reason I guess that is unique to fishing the Amazon is because that gives you a lot of flexibility with your logistics. So if the fish aren't in one area, if you have a set camp, you have to drive a long ways to get to it. Well, this gives him the flexibility to take the fishermen to that area on the boat. Uh, so anyway, incredible trip, 5-star service and food, and the fishing was just unbelievable.
Yeah, like some of the videos, after you posted on your story and stuff, and then I started following their page, and I was seeing like trips where they're, you stop off, say on this beach along the river, and then they have this huge spread for dinner laid out with like candles and tables, and it looked like something off a resort, and you're in the middle of a jungle.
Yeah, something that's unique to and hard for us to comprehend, living out here in Texas in the desert. But that river is so big, and so we're actually fishing a tributary to the Amazon, which is the Rio Negro. I mean, there was water as far as you could see, and a lot of times when you're in the river, you couldn't even see the opposite side of the bank. It was so wide.
Oh my
Just
God.
the amount of water there is just mind blowing.
Yeah, it's like you're looking across a lake, but you're on a flowing river.
Exactly, yeah, and the current's pretty stout too. I mean, even we were there, and it was I think it was 100-year low is what they were saying with the river levels. So the thing that was cool about that was it made the fishing a little bit tougher, but it exposed a lot of the rocks that had a lot of pictographs and things carved into them. So we got to see a lot
Yeah,
of things like that. It was really, really neat.
dude, that's so cool. Even like to see stuff from down there, like carved in the walls that you, like you said, you would never see because the water's so low.
Yeah,
Golly.
and for those that follow a lot of the history stuff and things like that, I mean that's some of the oldest civilizations in the Americas were in that Brazil, Peru area. So it's really neat, and that's really what the way that they would describe it for like the Incas is that's pre-Inca civilizations.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Holy cow. So that's way way back there.
But anyway, yeah, the trip is super awesome. You saw some of the pictures where they're towing the uh, the bass trackers behind the house barge, and
Yeah, yeah.
so every night we'd tie the boats back up, and we'd have dinner and drinks, and then go to bed and get started the next morning early, and we'd launch out from the boat, and we never really traveled more than about an hour to wherever we were going to fish.
Uh-huh.
And then the boat itself traveled like 300 miles up the river and then back. So it was a really really cool trip. Um,
Oh yeah, y'all covered some ground for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we had.
Well, so like on that, you said you're fishing like a tributary of it. Was there like a part where y'all went down like the main river and then kind of like turned off, or like how? I guess how did they come up with that track? I guess you know.
Um, I'm not for certain, but I know that the Rio Negro is where um, I know that the world record peacock bass was caught in that river. But one thing
Mhm.
that's unique about that river is that um, I guess the pH levels are so high, or the water's so acidic that the insects can't grow in it. So there's no mosquitoes. There's very few bugs
Oh my
Oh,
whatsoever.
God.
Yeah, and this is not anything that I expected going to the rainforest, that I wouldn't have to worry about bugs. But I mean, it was so pleasant.
That's wild.
okay. Well, that is like that's pretty cool that like they think of it that way and find that special like place where of course you got fish, but then you're not being covered by insects because that was going to be one of my questions that I had for you. Like, how is the bugs? Because you can, I mean, even here in like on the coast in Texas, like
Oh
South Texas, like the
boy.
bugs can be real bad. I can only imagine what they'd be like in the jungle.
Yeah, but we swam in the water and jet skied, and it was just a lot of fun.
That's pretty awesome. So, how many days was it?
We fished for 7 days. So
Okay, yeah.
so all in
So
all, I think
it
the
took
trip
you.
was like 8 days or 9 days with travel. So
Hmm.
it wasn't bad at all. A
Okay,
little bit of
and
a
you said
hassle getting there, but that's just because of the way
really.
just kind of how the flights kind of stack up. There's nothing direct from the U.S. Uh, to Manau, so you have to go to either Miami to Panama and Panama to Manau, or you have to go from Houston to Panama and Panama to Manau. So it just kind of
Oh.
Okay.
just logistically, the flights just aren't scheduled.
Yeah, and then you have to worry about all your stuff getting there and
Yeah,
all that. Like the more flights you change, the more likelihood of your bag's not making it.
exactly. Yeah, I carry on every chance I get.
Oh yeah, for sure. So,
Oh, for
did
sure.
you take any of your fishing rods or anything with you, or did they like have all that stuff for you down there?
So funny story is I had one of my fly rods sitting out, and I noticed one day that I walked in. I was going to grab it and step outside and do a little casting and everything, and my fly rod was broken. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, what happened?" And this is weeks before I'm leaving, and uh, and so come to find out that the mate had actually accidentally broken it when it was leaned up behind the door. And so
Yeah,
Oh.
anyway, I had one 8 weight that didn't have any issues, and our good buddy Sean Polk let me borrow two other 8 weights and rigged me out to be able to take those down there. So shout out to Polk
I
because
got
he
you.
he he sent me with some awesome flies and some good gear.
Yeah, he's
That's a
definitely the
good
guy
friend.
to reach out to when you're in that pinch for
Hmm.
sure.
But yeah, it ended up landing a 15 pounder on a fly rod. So that was my biggest fish of the week, and did it all on a fly rod.
That's awesome, man. And I know you said peacock bass, and that's what the 15 pounder was that y'all were targeting and stuff. But what other fish were y'all going after down there?
So they also had arapaia, I think is what we call them, but they have a different name for them. But it's essentially what they make the fish boots out of. So you see
Oh
the
yeah, yeah,
the
Oh.
the, the
yep,
scale boots or whatever, and that's
yeah.
what
They
they're
used to
making them
call
out
them
of.
the big bass or something. I think Anderson
Big
Bean
bass.
calls them the big bass,
Hmm.
but each brand has their own little name for it.
but it looks more like an eel than a fish. I mean, it's got a tail like an eel, and the
Oh.
ones we were catching were probably, I don't know, 5 pounders and stuff like that. But those get enormous. I mean, up
Oh
to,
yeah.
6 feet long and stuff like that. But we didn't see any like that or really target any. Uh, those were kind of more catches of opportunity. We'd see one and cast to it and catch him. Because they were kind of
Yeah.
skirting the surface and stuff. So
I remember seeing that show River Monsters.
yeah,
Did you ever watch that show? I
yeah,
remember those fish being on that show, and like one of them jumped. They were like trying to net him or something, and one of them like jumped out of the water and hit the dude like square in the chest and like kind of like knocked him out. Like they were big fish for sure.
yeah, yeah. What's cool about them is that's one of their favorite things to eat, and so
Huh.
they were actually taking them like and cutting them almost like a lamb chop because they have a large rib in them, and they would cook them
Oh,
like little
wow.
Okay.
little chops, and it was really really good. Uh,
Hmm.
and then of course we did catch a lot of piranha. We got into like one little back tributary that didn't have a lot of current in it, and every cast we're catching piranha on uh, rapalas, and they were huge. I mean, you couldn't have put them in a 12-inch frying pan. I mean, they were so big. Uh, but hands
I'm
down,
out. I am out. I'm not gonna mess with the piranha. How do you handle those on the boat? I mean, they just like
well, it's
I
not
mean,
not
that's
any different than
wild.
like you would do for a
Catfish or
catching a
something.
speck or something. You grab them with the
Yeah.
pliers and then pull it out.
Yeah.
But
Oh my god.
but I'm here to tell you that piranha is the best fish to eat. I mean, it is incredible.
That doesn't surprise me one bit.
Huh.
That sounds
That's
really
pretty cool.
cool.
It's literally like eating perch or crappie. I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean to me that's kind of what they look like, except they got
Mhm.
bigger teeth and nastier attitude. From in the movies and stuff, they make them
Oh, they
all look all
definitely make 'em look
ferocious.
bad.
But I mean, they're pretty cool fish though.
Yeah, when you put them in
I'd
the
give
in the in the live well or on the ice, you can hear them chomping in there, and they're just popping their jaws and stuff. I mean, they're the real deal.
A wild hog in your ice chest.
Yeah,
Getting
like
after it.
that'd be pretty cool to see, man. I'd want to catch one and like put it in a live well
Oh
and watch it.
man.
I wonder. Well, it's probably not a good idea. I'm sure you can't like get them and like have them in a fish tank or anything like that. That'd be a little. I don't know.
And you can probably catch them in Florida nowadays.
Yeah,
Probably.
they probably are in Florida somewhere. I mean, they have everything
Everything's
else.
in Florida.
Yeah, yeah. I'll be going. I'm going actually next month for my bachelor party to Florida. We're gonna go shoot iguanas, and then we're gonna go offshore fishing one day too, I think.
Oh man, that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, so we'll get to go see that and do that. We're going with Python Cowboy.
Yeah.
So not him specifically. He was already booked that day, but we're gonna go with like his crew and stuff. So that'll be fun. You might see some.
You can catch some snakes too, huh?
Ooh, maybe. I might get talked into it.
Crazy. So crazy. I thought they were kidding when they first said this idea. And nope.
It's come to fruition.
Yeah.
Ever so nicely.
You're gonna come back with a nice pair of snake boots and everything else. It'd be awesome.
Hey, I want something too. If you, yeah.
Yeah, if I catch one big enough, we can make a lot of stuff.
For sure.
But yeah, so like you said, you caught a 15-pound peacock bass, arapaima, some
piranha.
What is there anything else, or like y'all see any other animals or anything that was pretty cool?
It's kind of weird up there. I expected to be jaguars and things and monkeys and everything in the trees, but in that specific area, it's more of what they would call more deserty than the rainforest, I guess. A lot of that water actually runs off into the river from the Andes Mountains in Peru.
Gotcha.
But it's still pretty arid. I mean, the humidity is awful and the heat is awful there. But yeah, they said you kind of have to go a little further southeast of where we were at to where you start seeing a lot of the mammal life and things like that. I mean, one thing that was cool is they did have dolphins. They have freshwater dolphins there.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
And so they're a pink dolphin, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But when I caught that 15-pounder, we were kind of casting over a sandbar that was probably about 2 to 3 foot of water, and then it had a big stagnant pool back behind it. Well, those dolphins are smart, just like they are in the ocean. They hear the boats and they know people are fishing, so they kind of hang around for the easy meal. Anyway, I casted back off on this across this sandbar, and that fish comes out of nowhere. I can see the fish coming through and just smashes that fly. And anyway, so as soon as I hook up with him, he's fighting pretty hard, and they're big fighters. Even the little fish are big fighters. But all of a sudden, he just starts running and running hard, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. Well, both of those dolphins had come in and were trying to get my
Yeah.
fish. And so he runs all the way back into that lagoon and strips me all the way into the backing. And I'm looking at my guide going, hey, I think the dolphin just got my fish. Like, he's gone. And I knew it was a big fish when I hooked up. And anyway, I just kept going, kept working him. And finally, I found out that it was the fish that was still on there, and the dolphins had left him alone, and
Yeah.
gave us enough time to where we could land him, But that
Oh,
was
cool.
that was pretty interesting. But we saw dolphins everywhere. I mean, they were all over the place.
That's such a crazy pink.
Yeah.
It's just like flamingos. Like, why are they pink? It's just,
I guess
that's
from
pretty
stuff
cool.
they eat or something like that. But like, so are y'all fishing for these like bass here? Or is there like anything different that you really had to do or learn, I guess, on this trip?
So on the conventional stuff, I call them wood choppers. It looks like a broomstick, basically, that's painted, and it has 3 sets of treble hooks on it, and it has a big prop chopper. So when you pop it, it's throwing that water, and it looks like bait busting the
Yeah.
water. But that was what they preferred to fish with conventionally, and like a Rapala or a Thunder Stick. That's a short diver. Something that goes under the water, probably no more than 6 inches or so. But those were kind of their conventional baits, and then I just threw flies that simulated that. But it was funny. Like if we found the fish and I picked up the fly rod, I could catch one almost every cast with a fly rod, because I guess it was something that they weren't used to seeing. And you'd strip that fly across a hole that the fish were in, and I mean, they were just smashing it every time.
I was
But
going to ask about that. You said something about the insects earlier, and I was like, they're fly fishing, though.
Yeah.
Like, that's the first thing I thought about. I was like, so, what kind of flies were you guys using?
We were using like big clousers and streamers, something that really had a lot of puff in the water that made it look like a larger bait. So the color that I found was the best was like a chartreuse and red and a yellow and red, and those
Chartreuse.
yeah, really did well.
Yeah, bright stuff for them to see. Was the water pretty murky, or was it kind of clear?
It's really like almost chocolate milk brackish looking, but it is somewhat clear. But when you look at the water, I mean, it looks like a dark brown.
Yeah.
But you could see probably in about 2 foot of water or something like that was you could see the bottom and things.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm sure that's definitely a little different. We're actually planning for our honeymoon, and
the plan is
we're going
to Belize.
Yeah. So we're gonna try and go fishing down there and see what that's all about. I know, like, I think the time we're gonna go, it'll be
May-ish.
Yeah, so good for like tarpon and stuff like that. So that
Yeah, bonefish.
Cool. Yeah.
Let me know, and I can hook you up with some folks.
Cool. Yeah,
we're shopping.
Yeah, so I knew you were gonna you were gonna know some people down there, and if not, I was gonna hit Sean up too to see if he knew.
Yeah, he's got some connections down there.
We're gonna go to DSC
San Pedro
and see if anything's down, if they have like outfitters there too. So we'll definitely be asking for recommendations.
Awesome, man. Y'all are gonna have a good time. Belize is awesome. You're gonna love it.
Yeah.
I've heard great things. We just gotta get our passports.
Yeah, got to do that. I hope that's going to be the biggest thing.
Yeah.
It'll be my first trip out of the country, so I've never even had a passport, so I got to go get that done.
Oh man, you guys are going to love it. I think that's early for lobster season. I think their lobster season's like in August, September, or something like that. But the lobster down there is unbelievable.
Oh man,
well, which means we got to go back. The flights are really cheap.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I think Southwest flies.
Yeah, we're flying straight from Austin if we go.
Oh, cool. Even better. I like that.
Yeah.
We take a little hopper from one place to the island.
Got you.
The only thing extra.
Oh, Lord. It's hard for me now.
He loves flying.
The flying's not the bad part. I don't like airports. Like,
You just like driving in your own vehicle.
Yeah, but the flying part's cool. Taking off, landing, all that kind of stuff's perfect. But walking through airports, I don't like it. But just gotta get used to it, I guess. So, what was your besides catching a 15-pound peacock bass? What was like some of your favorite things about that trip, or like would you book it again and go back?
Oh, 100%. I think the whole group is willing to book again. So I mean, I don't think anybody on out of our group had a bad time at all.
Yeah,
So I would highly recommend it.
that's pretty cool. Yeah, like I said, it was real cool to see the setup that he had, like pulling the boats and stuff, and then the dinners and everything, and like the way that boat was set up. So like, and there was a whole bunch of common area that I saw, but how were all the like rooms on like one floor, or was it kind of split up? How was that?
Yeah, like all the rooms were kind of set up hotel style on the mid deck. So each room had glass windows, that were I don't know, say 6 feet off or 4 to 6 feet off of the water level, so you could open up your shades and see the water right there. I mean, just a really neat ambiance, and experience
Yeah,
to be on that boat. But uh, I mean, I would advise people even to take their wives on it. I mean, that was a very cool trip.
awesome. Yeah, when I first saw that boat, it kind of reminded me like of a larger version, or a nicer and larger version of the boat that was in Anaconda. You
Yeah,
ever see that movie?
yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, but much nicer and bigger for sure. Because if you've seen that movie, that boat's a little busted.
Yeah, we didn't get to see any anaconda, unfortunately, but one of the guys did accidentally catch a uh, uh, a black caiman. He was
Oh,
he was jig fishing and actually accidentally hooked onto one right in the foot, and so he thought he was stuck on a log until it started trying to swim away, But that was fun. I was actually there when they landed it, to unhook him and release him and everything. So that was a neat experience as well.
yeah, seeing those things is pretty cool. Like I said, you always see them like National Geographic and stuff like that, but to
Yeah,
see one up
exactly.
close personal, yeah, because they don't get that. Well, of course it's Cayman, but like they don't get that big compared to like other like alligators and crocodiles and stuff. I think they're like a little bit smaller than those, but
Yeah, that one was
they're
about
like
5.5 foot. I think probably 8 or 9 feet is probably as big as they get on the black caiman.
yeah,
It's
Uh,
so pretty.
oh yeah,
Oh my gosh, it's pretty.
but we only saw one that was probably big enough to be, an 8 footer or so.
yeah, yeah. That's pretty cool. I definitely like to see one of those up close. But so you get back from South America, and then on this awesome trip with these peacock bass and everything, and then how long was it before you left to go to Spain?
Oh man, it was not quite long enough. I hadn't quite rested up yet, but I think it was about 3.5 weeks. Um,
Yeah,
but my wife Catherine was able to go on the Spain trip with me, so that
Good.
that made for a better experience as well.
yeah, yeah. It wasn't just hunting, y'all. I saw y'all got to do some sightseeing and stuff like that
Well,
too. Also, right?
yeah, the unfortunate thing was that I didn't get to do as much of the sightseeing and I guess exposure to the culture and everything that she got to see. I mean, I got to see it in kind of a different way, I guess you'd say. But uh,
Yeah,
she we set her and uh, our friend's wife up with a tour guide, and so while we were out hunting, they got to go, olive oil tasting and things like that. So it was
Oh,
it was really really neat. I mean, wine tasting, got to sample a lot of everything's tapas there, so all the different kinds of foods and stuff like that. So they had a
I love
absolutely awesome
tapas.
time. Uh, so that's another good trip to take your spouse on or girlfriend on. So, uh, but
yeah. You can get a 2-for-1 special. You get to go do a little hunting and sightseeing and all that kind of stuff and mix it together.
so the guys that are listening, that's one that you can probably sell your wife on. Saying, "Hey, why don't we go hang out in
Spain.
Yeah,
Spain for a week?"
Yeah. And I'd be torn between hunting and sightseeing
yeah.
and
We'd
doing
have
all
we'd
that.
have to spend 2 weeks there just
Yeah,
just to
to
do
do both.
everything. But yeah, so what were you going after in Spain? Because like you hear Spain, and it's for most people, you really don't think of it as like having a huge hunting culture or like even like animals to hunt. But what were you going after?
Some of the surprising things about Spain is I think they have more of a hunting culture than we do in the States. And that
Really?
that really surprised me. I mean, you really see it everywhere. I mean, even
Mhm.
even in Madrid, which is where we landed. I mean, I saw gun stores and all kinds of things like that. Uh, it's thought of very positively in Spain, I guess, because a lot of the heritage and the culture of the country itself. Um, but I mean, the amount of game that we saw in these hunting areas was really surprising to me. We were seeing red stag everywhere. We were seeing boar everywhere. Along with the ibex. So I mean, that was really really cool and something that I guess me as a Westerner didn't expect to see was the amount of
Yeah.
Yeah,
wildlife.
for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I can't think if somebody asked me if I were to hunt I mean ibex, but like outside of
Outside of that,
I
I
don't really
really didn't know
know
what
of
else
what
they had.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, of course, it's traveling across the world, and most people first thought as Africa and stuff like
Yep.
that. But there's opportunities in these other countries as well that I'm learning myself about, in Europe and everything. And I mean, it is a little bit, I definitely different, I would say. But I'm interested definitely to hear more about like Spain and how they perceive hunting and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I guess culturally, they were always more of a rural uh, country, up until probably the the Second World War, when everybody kind of started migrating more out of the country and from ag uh, the agriculture side of things, and started moving into the city to make better money. And it may have been the Great Depression.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but sometime around that turn of the century and uh, before 1940. Uh, it seemed that people kind of moved from the countryside into the cities or whatever. But um, I mean, that was something that was very unique in seeing, is that you'd be up in the mountains, and you would see a house that was built, in the 16s or 1700s, and we just don't have things like that in our country because our country is
No.
just so
No.
new.
No. We're so
Yep.
young.
So
Yeah.
and these structures are still there, and in decent condition. Um, but that was what I thought was really really interesting about the countryside, was seeing a lot of that. Um, but anyway, kind of moving into the hunt. So the couple that we went with, and us, we were after three of the four ibex species. So we started our hunt around Madrid, and we hunted the Ronda ibex there, which is it's it probably shares being the largest of the species with the Bassetti, which is kind of on the in the Pyrenees Mountains close to France. And so we started there, and when we harvested that one, we moved kind of more into the southern area. Uh, Kind of traveled south along the Portugal border all the way to the coast to the actual city of Ronda, and then we hunted the Ronda ibex, which is the smallest of the species, um, and they're also the fewest of that species of ibex than the other three. And then we moved east from there and went to hunt the southeastern. So um, eventually, when we go back in a few years, we'll go back to the Barcelona area and hunt the Pyrenees for the
Um,
Bassetti and the Mouflon and Chamois.
Okay, okay. And then like so are I guess what what differentiates between these species? Like is it just like the areas that they live in, or are there huge, like physical things that you can see that separate these ibex into being in, these
just dramatic
different names?
characteristic
Yeah.
differences.
So the Gredos are truly isolated to a certain mountain range, kind of in the kind of northwestern or north central part of the country. Um, and so there's nothing, there's no other ibex that are nearby that they could crossbreed with or anything like that. But when it comes to the Ronda and the southeastern along the southern coast, they're only divided by two separate mountain ranges by maybe just a few miles. So you can actually,
Huh.
as you're driving down the highway, you can see where the two mountain ranges divide, and then there's a highway that runs between them. And so that's what separates the ones to the west being considered the Rhonda, and the ones to the east side of that being the southeastern. Um,
Hmm.
but I asked some questions about that specifically, and they said that the Rhonda and the southeastern do intermingle because of their close proximity. So if you're hunting in that area near near that divide, you can shoot a southeastern that people would classify as a Rhonda, even though they're larger horn size. But it's because they fall within that boundary region, or
Huh.
vice versa,
Okay.
I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like, I guess like you said, do they interbreed between those two as well, or are
Hmm.
they just like cross?
That's
Okay.
what
Yeah,
just
I
So
would
asked.
I would assume they do. I don't know that for certain, but they're very
gotcha. So
similar.
it'd be cool because I was thinking of it like like turkeys, because you have like
Yeah.
Rios that mix with Eastern sometimes in those spots, or like if you get to Kansas and stuff, you'll have Rios and Merriams, and like there's
What was your
hybrids.
hybrid?
Yeah, I killed a hybrid of a Rio and an Eastern in Nebraska.
Oh, very
So
cool.
like that's where I was. Yeah, so that's why I was wondering if that happens in between those, like turkeys do. So, but yeah, that's pretty cool. So like, or is it pretty, from the pictures I saw, it looks like you're hiking a whole lot up and down mountains and stuff. So was it pretty rough terrain, or like anything compared to like over here?
I mean, altitude wise, it's probably similar to like Guadalupe Peak, for both the uh, the southeastern and the Grados. Um, the Grados is kind of a difficult hunt in itself, just because there's no infrastructure built there for roads or anything. So you truly have to hike in and hike out. Um, and so that was about a 3,500 elevation gain from where we started to where we shot the Ibex. So it was an all day affair. But uh, that's when I figured out on that, since that was our first hunt, that I wasn't quite prepared for the level of activity that we were going to see. But it that probably wasn't the roughest of the country that we hunted. I mean, it had some steep stuff to it, but it was relatively easy climbing, um,
Yeah,
in comparison to probably the Rhonda, which was probably my least favorite to hunt, just because of how rough and steep everything was. I mean, that Ibex truly lives on uh, jagged shards of rock that it's just shooting out of the ground. So there was a lot
yeah.
more climbing involved rather than hiking.
Oh man, yeah. That's when it gets that steep, it gets definitely a little
You've
hairier. And
committed
yeah,
to. You're
you're
like,
you're committed to
what are
going.
you gonna do? Like, you have no option at that
Yeah.
point.
So was it pretty easy? I guess. Do they have kind of? I guess you're all following pretty much the trails the ibex are making on the mountain, trying to climb that.
Yes and no. I mean, like there was livestock and stuff in the Grados area, so there was trails and things there, and it's a very well known hiking area for the locals and stuff too. So there was some primitive trails there, so to speak. Um, but the Rhonda, it was all just rugged land. So the only livestock that was on the cliffs and on the mountains was the ibex itself. Uh, so we were up there amongst them, and that one, which I guess the saving grace there is the altitude was lower there. So you're only looking at between 4,000 and 5,000 foot elevation. But the bad thing about it was when we were there, it was like 95 degrees. So
Oh man,
where
yeah,
what we saved on elevation, we lost with the heat, because it made it brutal. Uh,
yeah. Climbing up on
Imagine.
top, you realize that you are going closer to the sun.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But I would say that the Rhonda was probably the most difficult, even though the altitude was lower, just because of the heat and the rock itself.
Reflecting off the rock.
Yeah, yeah.
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 So what were you shooting?
So I used the outfitter's firearm, and they had I think it's a Sako 550, I think, kind of set up as a with a thumb hole stock, and kind of a target setup. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was a great rifle. It
Yeah,
was
'cause
in
it's
a
I guess
7
it's
mag.
pretty hard to. You said it was 7 mag.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. So it's pretty. I guess it's pretty hard to get guns in and out of Spain. I'm not real sure on how that goes.
I didn't try it, but it's always easier to travel without them. I
Yep.
just from experience. I mean, if I know there's some cases where you definitely want to have your own firearm there, something that you're used to and everything. But in most places they have good quality equipment and good quality glass. So, uh, and my wife and I weren't sure if we were going to try to spend some time in Morocco while we were there, or travel around inside the country, and that's just another added thing that you've got to try to
To
juggle.
have with
Yeah, to
you.
have
Yeah,
it
and
with you
it
and have it, in your room or move around with it and stuff. And I'm sure getting in out of transportation there,
With that,
with
with a gun
with a
case.
gun case is probably frowned upon, or they're gonna look at you a little funny, wondering what are these Americans doing here.
exactly. But
Oh man, yeah, it's easier just to use the rifles that are there.
yeah,
But how far were the shots on the Ibex?
250 was probably my shortest, and the longest was probably 350, 370, something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
Um,
not too far, but it still
That's
had to
reaching.
stretch a little bit.
and I say that that the southeastern that I shot, it was straight down, um, and it may have only been I didn't range it, but maybe 150 or 200 yards. But that may have been the closest shot. Now that I think about
Yeah,
it.
Not that it makes it easier,
yeah, with it
especially
being
going straight down.
Yeah. So are y'all like when y'all are looking for these Ibex? Is it kind of pretty easy? Are y'all glassing them and then trying to make a plan to get to them and get in the spot, or how did y'all hunt
It's really no different than how we would hunt, aoudad out west or anything. Um, we would just get to a point and start trying to spot them, and once we spot them and thought we had one that we wanted to get a better look at, we'd try to get up the mountain and get into a little better position where we could get a shot if we needed to.
Okay, okay. And then like what's I guess like what's a big ibex? Like how are y'all judging on like you said which ones
Yeah.
you want to go after and which ones you don't?
So they the way that they structure their stuff is by metal class. So they have like a representative, and then they have bronze, and then they have silver, and then they have gold. Um,
Mm.
so if you select to go with like a bronze, that covers from representative all the way up to probably silver, and so that gives you the widest range of what
Mm-hmm.
you can take. So that's kind of the way that we elected to go. Uh, and then if you hunt, in the silver or the gold categories, you have a much narrower range in your uh, your score.
Okay. Yeah. That seems like to go off. Of course, I mean it's going like with age, but and size of the they have horns, right?
Right.
They don't shed. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. You got always got to make sure. I try to make sure I say it right every single time because like cows have horns, they don't fall off. Deer have antlers, they fall off. Just to get it right. But even though we say rattling horns,
Yeah.
it goes back and forth.
So with
But
the Ronda, they kind of wanted those to be 10 years or older is kind of their target for what animals they harvest. And then for the Ronda, they live in a lot harder conditions. So they were saying that, 8 years old is a good target for those. And then
Wow.
with the Southeastern, um, anything above probably 9 was okay. I think the one that I shot was 10. Um,
yeah.
but they, the area that they live in, to me, was the prettiest as it comes to, you know having pine trees and mountains and a lot of grass available, scenery. So it was just you could tell it seemed like it got a lot more rainfall than the Rhonda did.
Mm.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I like from what you're telling me, like I'm trying to, picture like on the judging thing, but it's kind of falling in the category like kind of how you judge sheep also.
Yeah.
Like you want to get those sheep and ibex up to like 8-9 years old, whereas most people are taking whitetail at 4, 5, 6, kind of that area, but making sure they're getting to that older age class and stuff. But
Yeah.
were y'all seeing pretty like big groups of like females also, or was it like the ratio kind of you're seeing lots of rams, or rams, they're all running together?
So it kind of changed by area, but it was either pre-rut timing in some of the areas or full blown rut for the others. So
That's
to me, it
cool.
seemed like the ones that we hunted in the south, the Rhonda and the southeastern, were full blown ruts. So we were catching loner billies or billies with a large group of females. Where he had them all kind of
Yeah.
hemmed up. And the same for the Rhonda. But the Gredos, it seemed like we saw big groups of just nothing but billies, and then we saw billies with ewes. So I don't think that they were quite there yet, but like I said, they just like any billy goat, they definitely smelled like a billy goat. And it's what I say is it's a smell only a hunter could
They
love.
do smell.
Yeah, for sure.
They do really smell
That's
bad.
funny. Well, that's a cool place, like like you said, with Spain and everything, and having all those 3 different kind of hunts that you could go do kind of all at once. You're getting a different experience with each animal, and there's not, besides going to Africa and hunting different plains game and stuff. It's not many places you can go and kind of get that experience with everything on one trip.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, doing all 4 is definitely doable in one trip. I think you could probably do it in a 10-day trip for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You could probably do it in less than that, but you add on that they have the wild European boar there. They have the red stag there. They've got mouflon. They've got 2 types of chamois. I mean, there's a lot of wildlife and game in Spain.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, and this was all through like one outfitter and does all the animals, or do you kind of like switch in between them?
No, we hunted with one outfitter. We hunted with Wild Hunting Spain, which is Pablo Carroll and Oscar Colomino. So great guys. I know that y'all met those guys at our show.
Yeah,
They usually show in Dallas, our show, and then Nashville, and I think they do a couple of other events around the country. But really great outfit.
One of these years we'll make it out to SCI Nashville.
yeah.
We gotta go.
Yeah, it's on the list, but it's just like with everything else and all the other shows going on now.
Yeah, we're going to a lot of the SCI shows.
Yeah,
now.
so of course with your help and being able,
Thanks, Brandon.
show
You're
off
welcome.
our talents, we've picked up a couple more. We're gonna do.
We just booked with the Hill Country. We're members of the Hill Country. Yeah, so we're members of the Hill Country now. They're booked us for their banquet, and then potentially San Angelo. So because it's the same. Trying to think. Erica,
yeah,
works for both of them.
Yeah. So we doing those now, and then of course getting SEI, and then DS. Well, we're gonna go to DSC. We're not doing anything there, but we're just gonna go visit and everything. And of course, that's the same time as Fort Worth Rodeo, so we'll probably go do that, or try to go do that too. So that time of year is just like blowing and going, like. And then day job work, we're planning for our stuff there too for Silencer Shop. So it's just going to be a busy for the next couple months.
Well, there's no rest for the wicked.
No, not at all. Not at all. We kind of had a deer season wasn't going too good. We were planning on getting out a lot more, but it didn't work out. And then kind of had a little stub of a toe, we found out that one of the bucks that I had been watching, it's low fence, of course, got shot by the neighbor. So
always.
Yeah,
no hard feelings, or anything. I mean, it's hunting, it's gonna happen. But I kind of just wish I'd had a little better opportunity to get out there and chase after him. But he's a pretty cool buck. I'll probably post a picture of him, the pictures I have of him on the game camera now.
Yeah.
But so that kind of had some bad luck on that end. But
well, that's never happened to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have a funny story about that. We were hunting a property around the San Angelo area, and we had this deer, and he was very uh, he was very steady at hitting a water hole and hitting a protein feeder for us all the way up until about October 3rd. And we're MLD, so we could hunt, in October, but I just could never get down there. We had so much stuff going on with the kids and everything. I couldn't get down there in October to get him. And so I actually didn't get to hunt until the second weekend of November, but I finally picked him back up on camera on about 3 days in a row, like the October 30th, 31st, and I think the season opened on the 2nd, and then he ghosted again. I couldn't find him again.
Yeah.
And so anyway, my buddy was down there hunting, and he thought one of the other guys that were on the lease was there and shot because the shot was so close. Anyway, so it turned out to not be either one of our guys that made a shot, but it was I guess a neighbor that did.
Yeah.
And anyway, I stopped by to see my buddies at Safari Studio a few weeks later, and Randy Fontenot he goes, "Hey, you're still hunting in Erie and County, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes, sir." He goes, "Man, you got to check out this deer that came in."
Oh man!
And he literally puts the deer in my hands, and I was like, I said, "Is this a sick joke?" And he goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "This is the deer I've been hunting." He goes, "You're kidding me."
Oh my God. What if he?
Oh my!
Just gosh. That way the way that happened.
And he was an awesome deer too. He was in the 160s. He was a great deer.
You should check this deer out.
Yeah, you should see this guy. Like that's
gosh.
Yeah, I've seen him before.
Lots of times.
Oh man!
I'll show him to you on the hoof.
Yeah, this deer. He showed. I got a picture. We set our cameras back in May, and started running them. And then I set up a little mineral site, and then had him on a feeder, and then he shows up, and I'm like, oh, you can still tell he's in velvet. Like he's still growing. I'm like, that deer's gonna be something, And then he disappeared. And then I finally got him on camera again in July, and he had a buddy with him who was kind of nice too, but he was the bigger of the two deer. And then had pretty consistent pictures of him through the end of July, August. Then about the middle of September, they started coming a little bit slower. And then he finally rubbed out, and I have a pretty cool picture of him and his buddy button heads right in front of the camera, and their horns are kind of locked, like they're just messing around playing. And then that's probably the last set of pictures that I got of it.
He would come in at 1 a.m.
Yeah, and then they were always coming in 1 a.m, never during daylight. But like I said, the pictures were pretty consistent, but it wasn't. You couldn't hunt him at midnight. Yeah. I mean, some people do, but I'm not taking those chances. I'm not taking those chances. But oh well, it's just fuels the fire for next year and chasing them even more.
Yeah.
So with the event coming up, and like you said, you're helping with the auction stuff now and doing that with your new role. What's some of the things you're kind of looking forward to, I guess, with the event that may be different, or things that y'all are kind of think y'all made better for this year?
We're always making minor changes. We're not going to do anything drastic or anything, because I think we've kind of put together a good program over the years. A lot of the guys that have been on the board since conception, have really evolved and learned from year to year, and so they've kind of carried that on to the younger guys that are getting on the board. And so we're going to do some games and stuff a little bit different this year. But the general layout and the way things will work will remain the same. So we do our exhibitor party, that y'all attended on the Friday night before the event. So everybody sets up on Friday, and then that night we host all the exhibitors for a little party, and then we get it cranked up at 9 a.m. the next morning, opening to the general public, and that's open from 9 to 3, and at 3 o'clock we'll shut down and take a little reset and reset the room just a bit, and open things up at 5 p.m. for the banquet event to start. So, but
I was really impressed last year.
Yeah.
Or actually this year.
Yeah,
it was this year.
Yeah.
Sorry.
With how y'all had everything switched around and moved, and the tables moved in, and everything got decorated, and all the hats and stuff, from your sponsors and stickers and stuff was just set out perfect. And it was just like we talked about in our second episode of the podcast when you were on, like that, just like I said, it's a lot of work to be able to do that, but y'all executed flawlessly for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank y'all. Yeah, it's a really good show. My hope is, this will be the third year that we've opened to the general public, and the reason we want to do that is we want people to know really who Safari Club is. And so people that are deer hunters that may not know, like say, I don't hunt on safaris, so I don't need to be a member of SCI. We want them to know who we are. And for those that are listening, Safari Club is the only organization that has a full-time presence on Capitol Hill. So they're not always working on stuff that's safari. 70% of their operation and the things that they do are fighting for your rights to hunt right here in the U.S. And so that's all the bear hunting and the wolf hunting stuff that's going on in North America. They're on top of that and on the front lines of it. And there's no other hunting organization that goes to bat, or very seldom is there a hunting organization that goes to bat or joins SCI on these fights. So it's truly SCI that's standing alone and fighting for every hunter's right. So we want the public to be exposed to that, but we also want, the public, just like I was the first time I went to one, to know that there are hunting options out there, and they're not nearly as expensive as you might think that they are.
Absolutely.
A South African safari, you can easily do that for far less money than you can go hunt elk on private land in New Mexico.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think a lot of people really understand that, but it takes a different person too that's willing to make that travel commitment and to go and do it. So because there's some people that just won't travel, and that's nothing against them or anything, but there are opportunities for those that are willing to do so.
Like you said, you can go to New Mexico and shoot one elk for the same price you can go to another country, see another culture, eat different food,
and get
meet cool people, and get 3 or 4 animals,
or 7, you can
depending on what you're after.
Depending on what
right?
you're after, it can happen. So, and then adding Spain to the list now after hearing your story there, and you can see most of these guides and outfitters are at SCI. If they're not at local chapter events like the one out, like we're gonna have out in Midland, they're at Nashville, and, making that trip. And from what I hear, that right there is an experience to even travel and go to that event and stay there for a couple days, because it's gonna take that to see everything that they have there.
Yeah.
And I think them moving from Las Vegas to Nashville kind of opens up a lot of opportunity for people that may not get along with the whole Vegas vibe. They can kind of hang out in Nashville. It's a little bit calmer, but it's still pretty good. Gets pretty wild in Nashville.
I think that it brought really a whole new energy into the SCI show altogether. Is just moving it to Nashville, because Nashville's very clean. It's very accommodating. Most of the people that were involved with the event itself were all kind of in a central area. So, and it is right there off of Broadway. So you're 2 blocks from Broadway. And so in the evenings you could go do that, or you could take a lunch break and walk across the street and have lunch at places. It was just a really, really good atmosphere and a good place to have it.
And we've been into Nashville for an evening.
Yeah.
We stayed in Franklin for the Outdoor Media Association conference, and basically went in for hot chicken because we wanted to try the hot chicken. Went to, one venue that had a concert going on, but it was just kind of spontaneous, and then came back down to Franklin, which is also a beautiful area.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but I highly recommend it. Y'all need to set aside some time in January, February to go to Nashville to SCI. It's a one heck of an experience.
Oh, for sure, for sure. So, you got any more hunting you got planned before the event?
No, just try to chase a few deer around here, and that's about it. There's nothing that I'm really after right now, but my daughter, I don't know if y'all saw, she got her biggest deer Saturday, so
she's adorable.
Well, thank you. She sure does love it and loves being out there, but I may consider letting her have the trophy tag as well because she's way fired up. So
that's awesome. So that was her first deer, right?
No, that was her biggest deer, but that was the first.
Oh, okay.
That was the first one that she shot where she did everything on her own. So I set her up on the bog pods and turned her loose on it, and she did so well. I mean, it was I get more excited, I guess, doing that or taking somebody else than I do when I'm behind the gun. So, I mean, she's sitting on my lap because she's just too short to quite get high enough to see out of the window of the blind,
Yeah.
And she's like, "Dad, you got to quit shaking." And I was like, "I'm not shaking." She goes, "Yes, you are."
Oh, that's hilarious. How old is she?
7.
Oh,
that's funny. Dad, you got to quit shaking.
That's funny.
Yeah, because you're
what
hoping
great memories.
that she's doing everything right, and you're trying to. I was probably trying to like help, but not help, and let her do it for herself and everything. Because that's hilarious. That's an awesome memory. I mean, we shared the picture on our story, but if you haven't seen it, check out Brandon's page. She is a pretty good deer for her biggest one.
Oh, she's grinning ear to ear too.
Oh yeah.
So proud.
That's cool, man. Well, like I said, we got you on here to tell about chasing peacock bass and ibex in Spain and stuff, and a little bit about the event. And I appreciate you getting back on and spending a little time with us. And it's always fun to hear good hunting stories. And you're definitely one of our guests that has a whole bunch of them that we like to hear.
And you're a good storyteller,
for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, thank y'all. I appreciate y'all having us. So. I guess one thing that I did forget to mention before we wrap things up is the show, the West Texas Safari Club show will be January 27th in Midland, Texas at the Midland County Horseshoe Arena. So if y'all need information about it, reach out to me on Instagram. We have the chapter has a page both on Instagram and on Facebook. So, and I'll respond to you as soon as you message me. So we'd love to have y'all come join us.
We'll have it linked in the description and everything. So Brandon's a repeat guest and an honorary member for sure, Tejas Hunt Club, because we had a lot of fun. If you haven't seen our dove hunting video, that we had a pretty good trip up in North Texas. So those guys invited me up there. Next year, we're going to have to find the time, maybe, hopefully, to get Tim and Sean on a podcast too.
Oh my gosh, that would be so
some of the stories that I heard were up there were awesome. Some of them are going to make the podcast, and some of them aren't going to make the podcast. But I really did enjoy hanging out and shooting dove with y'all guys. It was a lot of fun.
Well, that podcast probably won't pass the PG rating, so you might have to.
We'll have to do a first explicit podcast.
First, put M for mature.
Yeah.
Well, man, I appreciate you hopping on the podcast, Brandon, and we'll get this out, and I'll promote the event and everything, and hopefully get some more people out to Midland next month.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing you guys back too. So,
yeah, we're excited to shoot it again for sure. Well, Brandon, you have a good night, man.
Y'all do the same. Thank y'all again for having me.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, cheers.